Let's look at how and why you should sell on value. Michael Porter was the professor of strategy in the 80s at Harvard Business School. Did some research into how do you get to be the dominant player in any industry. Now, normally this is drawn as squares of 4 strategies, but when you translate that into your sales strategy, we think it collapses into 3. The first one, which is fairly obvious, is cost leadership. You can be the biggest player in the market by just being cheaper than everybody else. But you have to have your business lined up behind that, but it's a fairly straightforward. Number 2, you can differentiate your service or your product by just delivering superb service. If you deliver better service than everybody else, if you anticipate your clients' needs, you build better relationships, then you can dominate the market by dominating the service element to it. And then finally, if you drive more value, so you differentiate yourself by driving more value, Porter would call this focus, you can dominate the market because they're buying things of you they can't really get anywhere else, or they don't trust they're going to get anywhere else. And what Porter says is you can't sit in the middle. Right? If you get stuck in the middle, what gets in the way is the way you sell doesn't mirror the way you invest. Right? If you're going to be the least cost provider, you can't afford to develop CRM in order to get good at delivering service. Right? You can't develop R&D in order to invest in value creation for your clients if you're trying to take cost out of the business to be cheap. So once you've worked out what your business strategy is, it then comes to people like me to figure out how do we go and sell it, and that's what I'm interested in. Now, Porter says you can't sit in the middle. Obviously, you can't put money into everything. But I think when you're selling, you really can't sit in the middle. You have to be in the ballpark. You have to be pretty good at all of this. But typically, most people are really bad at finding and articulating the value they're going to deliver. If you're bad at that, you get pushed into this space, which we call the commodity space, where you're going to have a conversation and get squeezed on price. So it's going to be like, we really love you, Nikki. We really want you to do the deal, but you're in at 10 million. Your competitors are in at 5. You need to do something about the cost. Right? If you're having that conversation, you've failed to deliver the value we're dealing with you, and therefore you're not value selling. You are selling a commodity, and you're in this space. However, if you get good at it and you get good at articulating it, making it memorable, well, then these things fade away. And they don't care what the price is, and they don't care what the relationship's like. They've never dealt with you before. It doesn't matter if what you're delivering has so much value to their business, like it's obvious that they should go ahead. So when we get engaged to help an organization to start to sell on value, the first thing we have to do is find the value. Now, there's another video on this website that will show you moving from how to why. Everybody focuses on what do we do instead of what value does the client get from what we do. So we have to find it. Sometimes in organizations there is no value, or there's a confusion. Lots of value in what we do, but our competitors do exactly the same thing. No additional value for doing it with us rather than them. And in that case, we need to create the value. We need to stand up programs or systems or develop technology that allow us to go and say, well, we might do exactly the same as our competitors, but we do it this way, and therefore it's half the price, and that's the value you get from dealing with us. But once you have found it, well, then you need to be able to actually deliver it. And once you've delivered it, then you need to think about how do you use the fact that you've delivered value to your customers in order to prove it to your prospects. And when you've done that, then you figure out how to articulate it. And all of that process is iterative and difficult for a salesperson to do. Like, the organization has to be constantly looking at finding, creating, developing, proving, and articulating value if you want to give the salesperson enough chance to be able to go out and differentiate in a marketplace for that. Now, actually, the salesperson that you have in this space is going to be very different from the salesperson you have in the other spaces. If you're selling on service, you need somebody that's really good at developing relationships, that's going to spend time, energy, and effort playing golf, having a nice cup of coffee, having nice chats to develop an understanding of what the problems and the issues and the people are so that they can leverage that kind of sales. If you're selling on cost, well, you need Arthur Daly. You stack them high, sell them cheap. Like, all you need to do is find out what the competitors are paying and underprice them, and that's not a very difficult sale, and therefore it's not a difficult sales job, and therefore you perhaps don't need the type of caliber person. But if you're going to sell on value, you need somebody very special. You need somebody who's got a really fine-tuned skill sets. They need to be smart, they need to be intelligent, they need to ask good questions, they need to be really good at listening. In fact, actually, they need to be very, very different from the salespeople that would normally sell on relationship or sell on cost. They need to understand and be able to create solutions on the fly with the customer. That's a skill set. They need to be able to understand what the wins are in a complex sale, so they really need to be focused on the people, not the objects, or not object orientated. They need to be people orientated. They probably need to have high EQ as well as IQ. They really need to be good at listening, something we can test, but we do test when we're taking people on. And then they need to be really good at collaboration, because they've got other people. It's obviously multi-level sales. And then typically they need to be good at nurturing, because you have to bring people on. And don't forget that when you're selling on value, it's a two-way sell. It's not a one-way sell. So when you're selling on value, you don't just sell to the customer. You also sell internally to the organization to get the organization to realign itself around delivering that value, because the organization is focused on trying to drive a different set of metrics for its shareholders rather than drive value for the client. So typically, solution salespeople, value-based salespeople have to sell both ways and learn how to get that to work so that the sale happens. Way more complicated than how much are you paying, I'll undercut you, and let's go for a round of golf. So why would you do it? Well, you would do it because typically you win more. So people who are selling on price or who are selling on relationship will typically win 1 in 3, 1 in 4, 1 in 5. Maybe they're winning 25 to 30% of their deals. People who are selling on value almost always are winning 75% of their deals, 3 to 4 times more. So you're going to win more. Perhaps more importantly, you don't have to discount. You never get squeezed, and so you don't have to reduce your price, and therefore you make more margin, probably 2 or 3% extra margin points in it. And then because you're selling on value, much easier for the client to make a decision. So sales cycles are shorter. It takes a lot quicker to get the decision making. Sometimes you don't even need to go through a procurement process because there's so much value in the deal. They want to capture it quickly. And so selling on value takes a different person, takes a different thought process, but trebles your wins, increases your margin, and speeds up the flow of work into the business.